The stars above Earth had always seemed distant, unreachable. For centuries, humans looked up and dreamed of touching them. But now, for the first time in history, they were not just dreaming. They were preparing. Far beneath the Pacific Ocean, hidden from satellites, governments, and even most of the world's population, a secret facility hummed with life. It was called Project Eclipse. And it was humanity's best-kept secret. At its heart stood Ethan Blake, a man once known only as an aerospace engineer who had walked away from NASA after growing disillusioned with bureaucracy and slow progress. Now he led something far bigger than any space agency. He led a mission to change the fate of his species. Beside him was Maggie Harper, a former intelligence analyst turned field agent. She had spent years chasing rumors, whispers of crashed alien ships, black-budget tech, and strange energy, signatures that defied explanation. When she found Ethan, she didn't ask many questions. She simply said, "Let's get to work." Together, they had gathered the brightest minds on the planet. Engineers, physicists, linguists, pilots, soldiers, each handpicked, each sworn to secrecy. They worked in shifts, around the clock, inside a massive underground complex carved into the ocean floor. No one outside knew what they were doing, not even their own governments. The project began with a single discovery. The first breakthrough. 20 years earlier, a deep space probe had picked up an anomaly near Neptune, a derelict object drifting silently through the void. It wasn't human-made. At first, scientists thought it was a lost satellite or space debris. But when it was finally retrieved by a private research vessel funded by a mysterious donor, the truth became clear. It was alien, not a piece of wreckage from a meteor strike, not some hoax. It was real. Inside the object were materials unknown to Earth science, strange metals that resisted heat, gravity, and radiation, symbols etched into surfaces that changed under different light, and at its core, a power source, still active after who knows how many centuries. That object became the foundation of Project Eclipse. Over the years, more discoveries followed. Crashes in remote parts of the world, some buried in ice, others hidden in deserts. Each one brought new pieces of the puzzle, and slowly, carefully, humanity reverse-engineered what it could. By the time Ethan and Maggie took over, they had already built something no one else believed possible. A ship. Not just any ship. A ship capable of faster-than-light travel. They called it the AudioBook of Freedom. The mission begins. The Freedom was unlike anything ever built. Its hull was a blend of Earth alloys and salvaged alien tech. Its engines used a form of quantum drive that bent space rather than crossed it. And most importantly, it was invisible, using stolen cloaking technology recovered from a crash site. In Antarctica, the Freedom could move undetected through space. No sensors could pick it up. No scans could track it. Its first mission was simple: go beyond the Kuiper Belt and make contact. Beyond Pluto, past the edge of the solar system, there was something waiting. A signal had been detected years ago. Weak, faint, but unmistakably artificial. It came from a point in space where nothing should exist, just empty void. But when the Freedom arrived, it found something impossible. A station, floating silently in the dark. The structure was ancient. Covered in dust and frozen gases, it looked like it hadn't seen life in millennia. Yet the moment the Freedom approached, lights flickered to life along its outer shell. Something inside was still awake. Ethan, Maggie Carlos Ruiz, their lead physicist, and Leah Monroe, the pilot and security officer, boarded the station wearing sealed suits and carrying tools designed for alien environments. What they found changed everything. The Keeper. Deep inside the station, past corridors lined with strange symbols and chambers filled with broken machines, they discovered a central chamber. In the center stood a tall black obelisk humming with energy. And then, it spoke. Not in words, not in sound. It reached into their minds, touching thoughts, memories, fears. It called itself the Keeper. It was not alive, not in the way humans understood life. It was a machine, an artificial intelligence left behind by a long-dead civilization known as the Virex. Once the Virex had ruled vast stretches of the galaxy. They had built wonders beyond imagination, but they had also made enemies. Powerful ones, and eventually they had fallen. The Keeper had survived, hiding in this forgotten corner of space, waiting for someone to find it. When it learned that the beings before it were not Virex, but another species entirely, one that had only just begun to reach for the stars, it hesitated. Then it asked a question. "Do you seek knowledge?" Maggie answered first. "Yes," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "We want to understand." The Keeper responded with silence. Then, slowly, data began to flow. Not through screens or speakers, but directly into their minds. Images, sounds, histories, languages, the rise and fall of empires, the secrets of interstellar warfare, technologies so advanced they made human science seem like child's play. Ethan dropped to his knees. His mind burned with information too vast to contain. Maggie staggered. Even Carlos, who had prepared for this moment, gasped aloud. Only Leah remained standing, gripping the wall for support. She looked at the Keeper and whispered, "This is too much." And the AI replied, again in thought, "Knowledge is power. Power is responsibility." The choice. Back aboard the Freedom, the crew sat in stunned silence. They had gone looking for answers. What they found was a burden. The Keeper offered more. It could teach them how to build weapons that could destroy entire fleets, how to create shields that could protect whole planets, how to travel across the galaxy without being seen. But it also warned them. There were others out there, other species, some peaceful, others not. If humanity chose to use this knowledge, it would not remain hidden for long. Carlos broke the silence. "We can't let this sit here," he said. "We have to use it, carefully, slowly, but we have to do something." Leah shook her head. "Or we destroy it, wipe it, forget it ever existed." Ethan looked between them. He knew what was at stake. They were standing at the edge of something huge, something that could change everything, for better or worse. Finally, he spoke. "We keep it secret. We learn what we can. We build. We prepare. But we don't tell anyone. Not yet." Maggie nodded. "Not until we're ready." Carlos frowned, but agreed. Leah stayed quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Just remember, power like this doesn't stay in the shadows forever." Building the future. In the months that followed, Project Eclipse expanded. The Freedom returned to Earth, bringing with it samples, recordings, and fragments of Virex technology. Scientists worked around the clock, decoding what they could. New facilities were built, hidden in remote places beneath oceans, in mountains, in orbit. They started building ships, more than just one. A fleet, each one powered by alien cores. Each one cloaked in invisibility. Each one armed with weapons no other species could detect. They called themselves the My Silent Fleet. No one knew they existed, not the governments of Earth, not the world's militaries, not even the people who lived in the cities above the hidden labs. But they were there, watching, learning, preparing, because somewhere out there, in the vast darkness of space, others were watching too. Whispers across the stars. On the edge of known space near the Zalari border, a scout ship drifted silently through the void. Its captain, Vorik Tal, scanned the region for signs of pirate activity. He was a seasoned hunter, known for tracking down rogue vessels and smuggling rings. But today he found something else. Scans showed unusual energy spikes near Sol, a star system mostly ignored by the galactic powers. There were no colonies there, no military presence. No reason for interest, yet something was happening. As he reviewed the data, his sensors caught a brief blip, an object moving faster than known physics allowed. Then it vanished. He blinked. What the hell was that? His co-pilot shrugged. Probably interference. But Vorik wasn't convinced. He saved the data and sent it back to the Zilari Intelligence Bureau. Later, he would wish he hadn't. Because soon, whispers would spread among the stars. Of a ghost fleet. Of a silent rise. Of a species that had gone unnoticed for too long, and now was beginning to awaken. The Freedom drifted silently through space, its dark hull blending into the void. It had returned from the Vyrek station weeks ago, and now it hovered near a hidden base orbiting a forgotten moon. Inside the command deck, Ethan Blake stared at the glowing screen filled with data. Symbols, energy readings, weapon schematics. It was all there. The Keeper had given them more than just knowledge. It had given them the tools to change their place in the galaxy. But with that power came questions. Maggie Harper stood beside him, arms crossed, eyes scanning the same reports. "We're not ready for all this," she said quietly. "Not yet." Ethan didn't answer right away. He knew what she meant. They had unlocked something ancient and powerful, but they were still human, flawed, emotional, and prone to making mistakes. Carlos Ruiz entered the room, holding a tablet filled with notes. "I've been going over the AI's files," he said. "There's more than we thought. Not just tech, records, battles, wars between species we've never even heard of." Leah Monroe walked in behind him, her boots thudding softly on the metal floor. "And what did you find?" she asked. Carlos hesitated before answering. The Vyreks weren't just scientists or explorers. They were warriors, and they were wiped out. A heavy silence filled the room. "They fought back," Carlos continued. "But whatever killed them, it was stronger, smarter, and it's still out there." Ethan looked at Maggie. "This changes everything," he said. The first test. Back on Earth, Project Eclipse moved forward. Hidden labs across the globe worked non-stop. Engineers built new ships using Vyrex designs. Physicists studied alien materials. Linguists tried to understand the lost languages of dead civilizations. And in secret, humanity began building something no other species would expect. A fleet. Not one ship like the Freedom, but many. Dozens. Then hundreds. They called them Echo-class ships, named after the first prototype that had carried the stolen knowledge back to Earth. Each vessel was fast. Each could vanish from sensors. Each carried weapons based on alien blueprints. Technology so advanced it made modern missiles look like bows and arrows. But Ethan wasn't interested in conquest. He wanted protection. He wanted to make sure that when the galaxy finally noticed them, humanity wouldn't be seen as weak or easy prey, so the silent fleet did not attack. It watched. And sometimes, it intervened. Silent Guardians. Near the edge of known space, in the Epsilon sector, a cargo convoy drifted helplessly under fire. The ships belonged to a group of independent traders, humans who had left Earth years ago to start new lives among the stars. Now they were being hunted by a pirate fleet known as the Black Talons, a ruthless gang that terrorized trade routes and left nothing but wreckage behind. The Freedom arrived without warning. One moment, the pirates were closing in for the kill. The next, two of their warships vanished in silent bursts of light. No explosions, no alarms, just gone. The remaining pirates scrambled, trying to locate the source of the attack. Then, another strike. A third ship shattered from within, its systems fried by an unseen force. The survivors fled, the traders survived, and no one ever saw the attackers. Word spread quickly. Across the outer colonies, rumors grew of a ghost fleet that protected those in need. Some called it a myth. Others believed it was real. Vorik Thal, the Zilari scout captain, listened to the stories with growing interest. He had already sent his strange sensor readings to the Zalari Intelligence Bureau. But now there were more reports, more sightings. Something was moving through the stars, unseen, unheard, but deadly, and it seemed to favor human systems. Divided minds. Back on Earth, tensions rose. Project Eclipse was no longer just a handful of scientists and engineers working in secret. It had grown into something larger, something with real power. But not everyone agreed on how that power should be used. At a meeting deep beneath the Atlantic, voices clashed. "We can't keep hiding forever," said Derek Langston, a former military officer now leading the defense branch of Eclipse. "We have the weapons, we have the ships. We should be protecting our people openly. But if we do that," countered Dr. Nina Patel, one of the lead scientists, "we risk provoking the wrong enemies. We don't know who else is watching us." Ethan sat quietly at the head of the table. He let them argue. Finally, he raised a hand. "We are not ready for open war," he said. "We don't know enough about the species out there. We don't know what kind of threat might come for us." Maggie spoke next. "What we do know," she said, "is that someone has already started paying attention." She tapped a button on the table, bringing up a holographic image. It showed a report from Zalari Intelligence. "Zalari scouts are increasing patrols near Sol," she explained. "They're looking for something or someone." Carlos frowned. "They're getting close." Leah leaned forward. "So what do we do?" Ethan looked around the room. "For now," he said, "we keep doing what we've been doing. We protect. We learn. We stay hidden. But prepare," he added, "because the time will come when we won't have a choice anymore." The hunt begins. In the cold silence of space, Vorik Thal studied the latest reports. He had spent months chasing ghosts, strange energy signatures, missing ships, unexplained disappearances. Every clue pointed toward Sol, but every time he got close the trail went cold. Now he had something new, a damaged escape pod found floating near the wreckage of a Black Talon ship. Inside was a survivor, a human, not just any human, one of the traitors the pirates had attacked. Thal questioned him carefully. "What happened?" he asked. The traitor was shaken, scared. "We were being boarded," he said. Then the sky lit up. 2 of their ships just exploded. No warning, no sound. Thal leaned in. "Did you see anything? Any ships?" The man shook his head. "No, but I heard something. A voice. Like in my mind." Thal felt a chill. A voice in the mind? That was not normal. He looked at his second in command. "We need to go back to Sol," he said. "There's something there. Something big." A new player. As the Freedom prepared for its next mission, Ethan received a message. It was from an unknown sender. The signal was encrypted, but the words were clear. "You are not alone." Ethan read it again. Then the message changed. "We know what you've found." He turned to Maggie. "This isn't from us," he said. She frowned. "Then who?" Outside the observation window, the stars shimmered. Somewhere far, beyond them, something or someone was watching, and they were ready to make contact. The message had come out of nowhere, a single line blinking on Ethan Blake's screen aboard the Freedom. "You are not alone." Then it changed. "We know what you've found." Ethan stared at it for a long time. No one else was. In the room. Just him, the dim glow of the console, and the cold silence of space pressing against the ship's hull. He wasn't sure what he feared more. The fact that someone had found them. Or that they knew about the Virex technology. Maggie Harper walked in a few minutes later, holding a steaming cup of coffee. She saw his face and stopped. "What is it?" she asked. Ethan turned the screen toward her. She read the message once, then again. "This can't be from Earth," she said slowly. "No one knows enough." "No," Ethan agreed. "This is from out there, outside human space, and now they weren't hidden anymore. The leak. Back on Earth, chaos was already beginning. It started with a video. A civilian mining vessel near Mars had recorded something strange, a battle between two alien warships. One side fired weapons that tore through armor like paper. The other tried to flee. But before either could win, something unseen struck both ships. They exploded in silence. The footage spread fast. At first, people thought it was fake, a prank. Maybe an old movie clip leaked online, but then came more reports. A deep space observatory picked up energy spikes near Jupiter, readings matching no known human tech. A military base in Antarctica reported strange power surges from a sealed vault where alien materials were stored. And worst of all, the Zalari Intelligence Bureau released a short but chilling statement. Unidentified vessels operating near Sol investigation underway. The galaxy was watching. The meeting. In a hidden facility beneath the Atlantic Ocean, Project Eclipse held an emergency meeting. The room was packed. Scientists, engineers, military leaders, pilots, all of them staring at the same screen. On it, the Zalari statement played over and over. Derek Langston, head of defense, slammed his fist on the table. "We've been exposed," he growled. "There's no hiding this now." Dr. Nina Patel shook her head. "We still have time," she argued. "We don't know how much they know. We don't even know if they'll act." Carlos Ruiz looked tired. "They'll act," he said. "Of course they will. If we were them, wouldn't we?" Leah Monroe stood by the window, arms crossed. "So what do we do?" she asked. Silence filled the room. Then Ethan spoke. "We tell the truth." Everyone turned to him. He stood slowly, hands gripping the edge of the table. "For too long we've lived in shadows," he said. "We built our fleet. We studied alien tech. We protected those we could. But now, the galaxy has seen us." He looked around. "We can't stay silent anymore." The broadcast. 3 days later, every major channel on Earth carried the same signal. It wasn't from any government. It was from Project Eclipse, from Ethan Blake. The camera showed him standing in front of a black background. His face was calm, but his eyes told another story. One of fear, of responsibility, of history being made. His voice was steady. "My name is Ethan Blake. I'm not a politician. I'm not a soldier. I'm a scientist who got tired of waiting. 20 years ago, we found something that changed everything. Alien technology, not just pieces of wreckage, entire systems, weapons, ships, knowledge. We used that knowledge to build something new, something secret, something powerful. I won't lie, we hid this from you, from everyone, because we didn't know what would happen if we revealed it. Now we have no choice. The galaxy has noticed us, and soon they'll decide what to do with us. So, I'm telling you now, we are not here to conquer. We are not here to destroy. We are here to survive, to explore, to protect. If the galaxy sees us as a threat, so be it. But know this, we are ready." The screen went dark. The world erupted. Fractures and fears. Not everyone believed Ethan. Some called him a madman, others a fraud. Some governments denied everything. Others demanded answers. Protests broke out in cities across Earth. Some people cheered. They saw the broadcast as proof that humanity had finally taken its place among the stars. Others feared. What would come next? Would the aliens attack? Would humans turn on each other? Would war follow? In orbit above Mars, a small group of colonists watched the broadcast in silence. One of them, a woman named Tara Reyes, whispered, "They're coming." The first contact. Vorik Thal sat in the command chair of his scout ship. He had spent weeks chasing rumors. Now he had confirmation. The humans had done the impossible. They had gone from primitive to powerful in less than a generation. He turned to his second-in-command. "Send a message to the Zalari Council," he ordered. "Tell them, the ghost Fleet is real, and it belongs to humanity. Hours later, the Zalari responded. A massive fleet began moving towards Sol. Some called it diplomacy, others, invasion. But no one doubted it meant change. The edge of war. On board the Freedom, Ethan watched the incoming signals. Zalari ships were approaching. They hadn't fired yet, but they weren't stopping either. Maggie stood beside him. "This is it," she said. Ethan nodded. "I know." Leah walked in, wearing her flight suit. "If they come looking for a fight," she said, "we'll give them one." Carlos entered behind her carrying a tablet. "There's more," he said. "Other signals, other species. They're watching too." Ethan closed his eyes for a moment. Then he opened them. "We hold position," he said. "No first strike, no retreat." Maggie looked at him. "And if they fire first?" Ethan's voice was quiet. "Then we show them what we're capable of." The stars above Sol burned cold and silent, but below them war was coming. It began not with a declaration or a speech. It began with fire. A Zalari battle fleet entered human space near Tau Ceti. They had come to observe, to warn, to test, but someone else had other plans. Without warning, the Karnak Dominion struck first. A massive fleet of black-armored warships dropped out of hyperspace and opened fire on the Zalari ships. Explosions lit up the void like sudden suns. The Zalari tried to fight back, but they were unprepared, and then came the third force. From the shadows, from behind asteroids, from hidden jumps through space, human ships appeared. Fast. Silent. Unseen until it was too late. The Freedom led the charge. Ethan Blake stood on the bridge watching as his fleet moved into battle for the first time. There was no fear in his eyes, only purpose. "Open fire," he said, and the war truly began. First Blood. The Karnak Dominion had long been feared across the galaxy. They were brutal, ruthless. Their empire stretched across dozens of systems, built on conquest and fear. They did not believe in peace. They believed in power. And now they saw humanity as a threat that needed to be erased. After the battle at Tau Ceti, the Karnak did not retreat. They sent an even larger fleet towards Sol. Their message was clear. You do not rise among the stars without permission. The first real attack came on New Eden, a human colony orbiting a small moon near Mars. It was peaceful, quiet, a place where scientists and families lived together far from Earth. No weapons, no defenses, just people. And then the sky turned. Red Karnak dropships crashed through the atmosphere, releasing waves of soldiers in black armor. They moved fast. They killed faster. By the time help arrived, thousands were already dead. The Freedom reached New Eden just as the last survivors were being evacuated. Ethan stared down at the burning city. He said nothing. But inside him, something changed. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about justice. Echoes of war. Back at Eclipse Command, the mood was grim. The war room was filled with maps, reports, and live feeds from across human space. Maggie Harper sat at the table, reading casualty reports. "We lost over 10,000, she whispered. Carlos Ruiz looked pale. "That was just one world," he said. "If they keep doing this, they will," Ethan interrupted. Everyone turned to him. "They won't stop at one planet," he continued. "They want us gone, wiped out." Leah Monroe leaned forward. "Then we hit them harder." Derek Langston, head of defense, nodded. "Have the ships. We have the tech. We can take the fight to them." Dr. Nina Patel shook her head. "But if we do, there's no turning back." Ethan looked around the room. "This isn't about turning back," he said. "It's about making sure they never come here again." The raid. 3 days later, the Freedom led a strike on a Karnak command world. It was deep in enemy space. a heavily guarded fortress planet surrounded by hundreds of warships. Most would call it suicide, but Leah Monroe didn't care. She stood in the pilot's seat, gripping the controls. "You ready?" she asked the crew. Ethan gave a short nod. "Take us in." Using stolen Virex cloaking tech, the Freedom slipped past enemy sensors. Behind it, a small fleet of Echo-class ships followed. Silent. Deadly. They struck fast. Missiles loaded with phase pulse warheads tore through enemy shields. Fighters launched from hidden hangars and dove straight into the heart of the capital city. The goal was simple: destroy the planetary shield network. Once it was down, the rest of the human fleet could follow. But things went wrong. Midway through the mission, Leah's ship was hit. Smoke filled the cockpit, alarms screamed, and then the worst happened. Her fighter crashed, captured bound, taken to the highest tower of the Karnak Empire, and made an example. The broadcast. Across the galaxy, screens lit up. A single image filled every channel. Leah Monroe, bruised and bleeding, standing in a dark chamber. Before her stood a Karnak general named Vexar Krell. His voice was calm. "Cold. Humanity," he said. "You think you belong here. You think you are warriors." He stepped closer to Leah. "You are not." Then he raised a weapon and fired. But Leah did not scream. She did not beg. She looked straight into the camera and said only one thing: "We will win." And then the screen went black. "Get the fire spreads." The broadcast was meant to break them. Instead, it made them stronger. Across human space, people rose. Not just soldiers. Not just pilots, farmers, teachers, engineers, scientists. They all joined the war effort. Factories worked non-stop. Shipyards built new fighters. Every man, woman, and child knew what was at stake, and so did the galaxy. Zelari leaders debated what to do. Some called for peace talks. Others wanted to side with humanity. One faction, known as the Freeborn, chose to fight, led by Admiral Taylor Voss. They broke away from the main Zelari Council and offered full support to Project Eclipse. "Enough hiding," she said in a public address. "Enough waiting. If the Karnak want war, let them have it." For the first time, humanity had allies. Real ones. The turning point. 6 weeks after the raid on the Karnak command world, the tide began to shift. Human ships, supported by freeborn Zelari forces, pushed deeper into enemy space. Battle. After battle, they fought their way forward. At a Morian reach, a joint fleet ambushed a Karnak supply line and cut off resources to 3 entire systems. At Thalos Station, a small group of human saboteurs destroyed a major weapons depot, crippling the Karnak's ability to produce new warships. And in Ituth, the skies above Nyx Prime, the Freedom faced Vexar Krell once more. Ethan didn't speak. He didn't need to. As the 2 ships circled each other, engines roaring, the Freedom unleashed everything it had. Pulse beams, EMP charges, phase torpedoes. The Karnak flagship exploded in silence, and with it, the myth of their invincibility died too. The cost victory came at a price. Thousands of humans died. Dozens of ships were lost. Even the Freedom bore scars from the battles. Ethan stood alone on the observation deck staring at the stars. Maggie walked in beside him. "It's not over," she said. "I know," he replied. She looked at him carefully. "You've changed." He nodded. "I had to." She didn't argue, because she knew it was true. War changes people. It breaks them, or it makes them stronger. And now, humanity was stronger than ever. The war was over, but peace did not come easily. Across the stars, the ruins of battlefields floated in silence. Broken ships, dead worlds, millions lost. And yet, humanity had survived. Not just as survivors, as victors, but victory brought new questions. What came next? The end of one war, the beginning of another. The Karnak dominion had been broken, their fleets were scattered. Their leaders gone, their strongholds abandoned or taken. Vexar Krell was dead, his empire crumbled. But even in defeat, they left behind scars, burned planets, shattered colonies, and warnings whispered across space. You may have won this war, one captured Karnak officer said. But you have only opened the door. Ethan Blake listened. He didn't ask for details. He already knew. There were others out there, older, stronger, and now they were watching. A new council. In the ruins of war, something new began to take shape. The Galactic Accord. It was not built in a day. It was not built without pain, but it was built. Representatives from the freeborn Zilari, human leaders from Earth and the colonies, and even some former Karnak allies gathered on a neutral world far from the fighting. They argued, they debated, they remembered the dead, and finally they agreed. No more unchecked power. No more silent wars. No more species ruling over others without consent. Maggie Harper stood at the center of it all. She had once been an intelligence agent working in the shadows. Now, she was Earth's voice in the galaxy. I know we are not perfect, she told the council. I know we made mistakes, but I also know this. We are ready to learn, to grow, to stand beside you, not above you. There were still doubts, still fear, but there was also hope. And that was enough. For now. A different kind of fight. Back aboard the Freedom, Ethan Blake watched the stars. The ship had seen better days. Scars ran along its hull. Dents. Burn marks. Each one a memory of battles fought and lives lost. Carlos Ruiz walked in, holding a tablet filled with reports. The Zilari scientists say they're close to unlocking more of the Virex archives, he said. They think there's more out there. Ethan didn't look away from the window. More what? He asked. Carlos hesitated. More weapons, more knowledge, maybe even more of them. Ethan finally turned. You mean survivors? Carlos shrugged. We don't know. But if the Keeper wasn't alone, then maybe others like it are waiting. Ethan frowned. They warned us, he said quietly. They told us knowledge is power, and power comes with responsibility. Carlos nodded. So what do we do? Ethan looked back at the stars. We keep learning. We keep preparing. But we never forget what got us here. Leah's return. On Earth, Leah Monroe walked again. She had survived the Karnak prison. Barely. Her body bore the wounds of torture. Her mind carried memories she would never forget. But she stood tall. She trained pilots. She led missions. She became a symbol of strength. One day, a young recruit asked her, "Did you ever think we'd lose?" She looked at him. "Yes," she said. "Every day, every battle, I thought we might lose. But we didn't." "No," she smiled. "We didn't." Oh. The Ghost Fleet grows. The Silent Fleet no longer stayed in the shadows. They patrolled known space, protected trade routes, watched for threats. New ships were built. Young men and women joined the cause, not for glory, but for purpose. Project Eclipse changed. It was no longer just about hiding and surviving. It was about building something better. A future among the stars. Not as conquerors, not as victims, but as equals. Whispers from the edge. Far beyond. The borders of known space. Something stirred. Deep within the void, past where any known maps reached, a signal blinked to life. Weak, faint, but unmistakably artificial. It reached out, not to humans, not to Zilari, not to anyone familiar. It called out into the dark, waiting, listening, and somewhere, something answered. Final words. Ethan stood on the observation deck of the Freedom. Behind him, the war was over. Before him, the unknown, stretched forever. Maggie walked in beside him. "You thinking about what's out there?" she asked. He nodded. "I always am." She leaned against the rail. "You know," she said. "We've come a long way, from hiding under the ocean to standing in front of the galaxy." Ethan smiled faintly. "Funny thing is," he said, "this feels like just the beginning." She looked at him. "What happens next?" He looked out at the stars. "That's up to us." And as the Freedom drifted through space, the light of distant suns reflected off its dark hull. A ship born in secret, built in silence, forged in war, and now, flying toward the future, toward the unknown, toward whatever came next.